Tell me what your why is, Wang. What gets you up? What gets you motivated? Why are you doing what you're doing, taking risks, walking through things, learning, making calls, sending emails, doing the thing?
Yeah, I think that question is the age-old question everyone wants to figure out, right? Your big why. So I've had a lot, and it's an evolving answer. I've had a couple of experiences recently that's really helped me find and tune in on that why. So let me start from what it was and to where I think it is now. So when I was growing up, obviously I got my PhD, but that was, and sorry mom if you're hearing this is no means anything against my parents, right? But it was a path that wasn't really what I wanted. It was a path that was laid out for me. And they laid it out with the best of intentions, right? You get a PhD, you go get a job, you work it for 30 years, and you're retired with a good pension and good 401k, whatever.
You're set up.
Right, you're set up.
Yeah.
And that was the path they wanted for their son. And I absolutely appreciate them and love them for setting me up for success. I got that path. The only problem I have with that is when you tie your dream to a finite event, like making $1 million, become a senator or whatever, get a PhD. Once you get it, the question becomes, so what? Right? What's next? And for many years after I got my PhD, I was kind of in limbo. It's like, what's next? Went to a corporate job. We talked about that already. And it's just like finding the next thing. So long story short, recently, somehow the universe and God put things together, and I ended up in Colombia on this healing retreat with a guy called Paul Hutchinson. Amazing guy, by the way. So quick bio, Paul used to run a $40 billion real estate fund. And then he retired in 2017 when he found his calling to fight against child trafficking. And then besides child trafficking, the other thing he does is these healing retreats over in Colombia. And the goal was 1, to help people overcome trauma, and 2, find your higher purpose. So I went to the retreat not knowing what to expect at all, but came out of it just completely transformed. One of the main conclusions I had was I'm very blessed that I don't have heavy baggage and trauma. Like I mentioned to you, I was very blessed to have grown up and have my formative years in a great environment, made really good friends, didn't see a lot of bullying, any of that a lot of people I know in the world carry with them. So I was blessed. That was one conclusion. But the other was to find higher purpose. What exactly is my why, to your question? Going into the retreat, I knew that I wanted to achieve financial freedom for my family so that we can have more time, we can spend more time with each other. But on the second day of the retreat, I had a day where I felt down. Because I didn't understand the why, the bigger connection, the connectedness. And long story short, at the end, coming out of the retreat, I realized that it's important to give back and connect with society and help others. And one of Paul's main things that he encourages people to do is always give back, especially when it hurts. He committed to giving 20% of everything he makes to charity, to people, to society, even when he was making like $300 a month or something like that. And when you give, you receive it back tenfold.
I 100% agree.
And I found that to be absolutely true, especially
giving in itself becomes a blessing just in itself. The feeling you get from giving as opposed to the return down the line or whatever you're going to get back.
Don't be transactional.
It comes to a place where, for me, giving is like investing or being in business or being good at anything. The more you do it, like it becomes almost like an addiction. And then you have to work harder to be able to give more. It's super interesting. I think there are levels to giving. I don't know them all. But for me personally, I know that it is one of my chief joys in life to be able to give to other people. And I feel like, just like everything else, like I said, business, entrepreneurship, you have to start doing that thing.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I get it. And then it becomes a thing to you.
Yeah.
And then you're the guy telling other people you should be doing this. And I'm like, bro, like you're trying to get something from me. I'm like, no, I'm trying to tell you, dude, this is going to be dope. Yeah.
It ties to a higher purpose so going in and coming out of the retreat, my goal is still the same, to achieve financial freedom for my family.
Sure.
But the motivation became very different.
You still want to make money and be successful.
Yes.
Yes.
But if you tie it to a higher purpose, whether it's giving back, whether it's to help a charity, for Paul it's child trafficking, for others it's building
the value prop changes.
Yeah, the value proposition absolutely changes.
Yes.
So that was as of a month ago. But as you know, sometimes when you come out of conference or you come out of retreat, you're building off that high, but when the high fades off and the realities of everyday life, and I just made a post about this on LinkedIn recently, right? You end up going into a pit. And so I was in a bit of a rut. And so I shared this with my wife. We're very close, right? And we talk like every day when I go on a walk. So she was like, hey, let me get you this book by Michael Singer, which is what I just shared with you earlier today.
Yeah.
It's actually his second book. It's called The Surrender Experiment. And basically it describes how he effectively surrendered to the universe, to God, and everything will connect him. Again, let me back up and say, when I went to the retreat, I was not religious at all. I was very much agnostic, probably in the middle between atheism and religion. But I think I've become more spiritual even just in the last month.
Yeah, you and I talked about this when we first get to know one another. We talked about that I'm a Christian. I said, hey, look, I'm not a pushy Christian. I'm a Christian in training is what I like to call myself. It's a work in progress, and I don't put myself up to be, some holy guy, because I'm definitely not. I also don't push my religion on other people, right? Yeah. I feel like that God's going to do his thing, right? I'm supposed to be the light for Christ. I'm supposed to be the light for Christianity. I'm supposed to, be an example of what that is. But ultimately, God's going to do his thing too. And this is not a church. You and I, you know what I mean? You didn't come here to hear me preach to you, no. Right? But you and I did talk, and you knew where I stood.
Yes.
And you also appreciated the fact that I wasn't pushing that on you.
Yes.
You felt like you explained to me sometimes, hey, look, I know some Christians, and I've known some Christians in my past, where it's as soon as they sort of hear that I don't know that much about God, or I don't believe in God, or whatever, I don't have the same opinion of them, that it's hey, come to church tomorrow, join our group. Hey, man, do you want to pray? And so, yeah, I feel look, every person has their own experience, and you can relate that to anything in life, including, their spiritual journey, their spiritual walk, their belief system when it comes to a greater power, a higher power, more to this life than just, what we have going on right in front of us. So I do love the fact that you opened up yourself, Lang, and you and I chatted about this, to, hey, maybe there's something to this. Let me go pay some money. Let me go check this thing out. And then on the other side of it now, you have a different experience. Yep. And that's the power that we talk about on this podcast of skipping the line and walking through things. It's hey, look, I have to come to the realization that I don't know everything. I have to come to the realization that right now, me personally, I'm 42 years old. There's so many things in this world I don't know. You can relate that to being a scientist, real estate, lending, business, money, developing real estate, building real estate, cycles of real estate, cycles of, who's going to win the election? How's that going to affect the dollar? How's that going to affect inflation? How's that? Oh, there's all these people out there that'll tell you the answer, but were they right 4 years ago? Were they right 6 years ago? Were they right 8 years ago? No one remembers that. So all I'm saying is, act from a place of humility. We're trying to pressure test our deals. We're using information from our own experience to pressure test our deals. We are consulting with people who are very sophisticated and experienced to pressure test our deals. But look, dude, anyone that's been in the game long enough, there's going to be a deal that goes bad. It's just a part of the game. In fact, I think there are rooms, I know for certain there are rooms that unless you've taken a couple hits, they're not even going to let you in the room, dude. And I'm talking about these people have a tremendous amount of affluence. So, I don't know how I got sidetracked there. Oh, talking about spirituality. Yeah, man, I'm stoked for you. So do you want to dive into that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So I started reading Michael Singer's book, right?
That's where he works.
He goes by Mickey.
Yeah.
And the Surrender Experiment, aptly titled, is about surrendering yourself to a higher power, whether it's God and Jesus Christ if you're a Christian, whether it's the universe or whatever else if you're, more like Buddhist or Zen or whatever, right? Surrendering to that higher power and having things align for you. The book was autobiographical in nature, but it's just crazy how event after event after event, the perfect people and the perfect events happened when they were supposed to, when he surrendered to saying that I'm not the one in control. The universe, I'm just living through life. I'm observing life.
It's amazing.
Right.
That concept is so amazing.
Yeah. And I've heard you say it a few times, so.
I try to live by that. It's difficult, man, because I am very much you
just got to relinquish control, man.
Gotta go for it, That is a thing, and I think that is a spiritual thing, and I think that's a constant thing. And look, we don't arrive, right? You know who else talks about that? It's Patrick Bet-David. He talks about all the different forms of religion. He's look, he's a Christian, but if you're a Buddhist, or you're a Muslim, or you're a Jew, or you're a Jehovah's Witness, or whatever you are, he's do that thing though. Don't say you're that thing and then not do it. He's there's a lot of these things that relate across all religions. Try to be a good person. Do it, or say it and do it, right? Try to be a good family person. All these sort of fundamentally things that are similar fundamentally in these religions. He's whatever you are, do it. And I find that to be very interesting.